couple of weeks back, I was talking to Sean on air. You may recall the conversation. He was talking about his mother, Margaret, in Ballyknoe nursing home, who had contracted COVID. And he got upset on air, understandably, because he'd been trying to call his mum on the phone on the morning that was on the air with me, and she wasn't answering his phone. That was a couple of weeks back, and I just wanted to touch base and update with Sean again and pass on our condolences on the passing of his mother. Sean, good morning.
Good morning, Neil. How are you?
I'm so sorry to hear the news when Emer told me. Oh.
Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me come back on again.
Not at all. And just fill me in after the phone call that we had on air and she not answering. Had she taken a turn, or what was the story?
We got a call from her doctor, Dr. English, and he said that he wouldn't be surprised if COVID took her. So my sister, Teresa, got on to Ballyknoe and said, look, we need a visit. They were very reluctant at first. They were saying, look, and then they relented. They said they'd leave one person. Then my sister said, look, that's not good enough. There's 6 of us. So then they said, look, we leave 2 in at a time. So we all kind of headed up there, and we were left in. My God, we had to disinfect outside. We went in. They gowned us up with a face shield, with a mask. Then a man, Paddy, I never met the man before. Actually, none of the staff up there I had seen before. Brought us down to our mother's room, and it wasn't a great sight. She was unconscious, and
had you seen a huge change in her?
Absolutely, yeah. Her, she was actually getting very thin. Her face was very gaunt. I walked up to her bed. I rubbed her arm. I rubbed her cheek, and sorry.
I know. It's your mother, for God's sake.
I rubbed her head, and Paddy said, look, you can't touch. I said, look, I'm very sorry. I said, but I wanted to do it, and it's done now, So I was going to ring up actually last Friday, but you were all very happy with Valentine's.
Sure, I know.
And I just wanted to come back on because I was very touched by people who text in saying that they'd say a prayer and they'd light a candle.
And people do that, they really and truly do.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like total strangers. I even went down to the post, my mother's post office, and went to my post office as well, Sunday as well, last Friday, just to tell them and close her pension down. And they gave me a mass card.
Isn't that lovely?
Really nice touch,
Isn't that lovely? That's why we need society that has places like post offices and chemists and corner shops and things like that.
Yeah, and I met a friend of mine then in Ballyknoe as well. His mother, I know his mother as well, in the car park. Oh, actually, it was on... we got onto O'Connor's then on the Saturday, and they said, look, they'd let us know what time they'd be collecting her.
But wait, do you mind me just asking, and I don't mean to overly dwell on it if you don't wish, but
I'm jumping in and out.
Was your mum asleep when you went in? And
yes.
Yeah.
I had visions walking in like that. She, maybe say hello or something like, but that wasn't to be, And
was it soon after the visit, or was it days later?
It was the Friday night. I got a call, say Saturday morning, just after 1. She was after passing away at 10 to 1 that morning. And I can't remember anything of that night, I don't know whether I went to bed or... See,
the cruelty of all of this now and the times we're living in is that normally you'd be at her bedside, you see. And you'd have probably done it in shifts, the 6 of you.
Yeah, what I wanted to kind of tell people as well is that, even the passing of my mother was terrible altogether, but the whole funeral and leading up to her passing, it wasn't as horrendous as it was. My mother, going back to before COVID, I used to visit my mother every day, pretty much.
Go away.
And then COVID struck. Then I was restricted to a visit once a week. Then it was once a fortnight. Then it was window visits. Then it was just phone calls. So, my mother disappeared very slowly, which I take comfort from that as well,
Yeah. And how did your mum react to all of the changes over that period of time?
She was a stickler for rules. She said, that's the rules, and she just abided by them, and she thought it was terrible, and she said, one day she said it'd be a fine thing if they took us out in the yard and shot us. Did
she say that, yeah?
Yeah.
She'd had enough of it?
Yeah, but she would do as she was kind of told to do, really, Well,
that's the generation you're talking about, really.
Absolutely,
yeah. Respect for law, rules, regulations, society.
Yeah, and I was dreading the funeral then, because I was saying it's going to be so terrible, but it wasn't very bad, but like we couldn't have a rosary. But I went down, we couldn't, she was cremated, sorry, and couldn't be cremated Monday because it was booked out. It was booked out Tuesday. I mean, that's horrendous, isn't it? So we had it on Wednesday. On the Monday, I went down to the funeral home, myself and my son, said a few prayers.
I think you spent quite a lot of time with your mum in the funeral home, didn't you?
Yeah, and Tuesday I went in on my own. And, it was nice, just myself saying my own prayers, my own thoughts, nobody around to distract me. And I take comfort. I try to take, as much positivity as I can out of it.
And there was no limit on the time that you spent with Margaret, no?
No, there wasn't. No, nobody. But O'Connors were extremely accommodating and very nice. And in the church, obviously there was only a certain amount allowed in. And I couldn't tell you was there actually more than the 10 or not. There probably was a few more, but I was doing the eulogy, my sister, and I didn't even look out to see who, or to look up to see who was there.
Yeah.
One thing that did annoy me, and any other time wouldn't annoy me at all, I was sitting at home in the kitchen doing the eulogy, and on the radio, I don't know it was on the radio or on the television, there was an ad on for the Ireland-France rugby game.
Yeah.
And I was saying, my God, it hit me. I was saying, my God, they're out there playing a game with a ball, and I can't, have a proper funeral from my mother. But
it's personal to you see. You're entitled to feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got through it. The priest, Father Ted. My mother would have found that amusing. Father Ted Hickey. He was very nice. Not your typical priest. He was just very down to earth. Chat away to him. I had a good chat with him, and I didn't know what to expect at the crematorium then.
Such was the demand for it. It was booked out on the Monday, booked out on the Tuesday. You wouldn't normally have heard that outside of COVID, I suppose. You wouldn't.
No, absolutely not. No, and I didn't know what to expect. But I had been at a cremation before, but I didn't know what to expect.
Well, you were outside the crematorium, weren't you? You weren't inside.
Well, yes, but did you know the crematorium yourself?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, well, we were allowed. 10 of us were allowed to go through the tunnel, and there's a courtyard.
That's right.
And we stood there with the priest and said a few prayers. And the people that were there were her nearest and dearest. So that was the most important, really.
There's been criticism that people can't go inside, though.
Look, all in all, does it matter?
Well, it mattered to people who were on the air with me because it was windy and it was pouring rain, and they were elderly. Yeah,
no, it was cold. But it wasn't raining, you are when you're sheltered on four sides. It's just the top is open.
Okay. Did you find, because it was a much smaller funeral and a much smaller removal, did you find it more personal?
I did, definitely.
Yeah, I think I did too.
I think it was a lot more personal. I took comfort from that then, my time alone in the funeral home, the small few people in the crematorium.
Well, that's my point, and no disrespect to the people who go to funerals because they're paying their respects, but your time is taken up with shaking hands and meeting people, and sometimes it can be all a blur, whereas you had an opportunity for it to be slower, calmer, more personal with Margaret, your mother. Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't know then whether we'd be allowed to take away the wreaths and the flowers, and they said we could, and we brought them down to Little Island to my father's grave, and we laid them on the grave, and we said a prayer there, and that was just the immediate family again, which was very nice. I know. It's such an unfair thing to happen to her, isn't it? Yeah, it's like anybody that's facing it really is it's not as horrendous as they think it might be. No, it might be for some people. I'm just Saturday when we went up to when my mother was being brought out of Ballyno, I met a friend of mine. I was just about to say there a while ago that his mother is in there as well, and I knew her to speak to and have a chat with. But I met him in the car park, and he came out. He had his hands up to his head like he was in an awful state, and he said he's sorry for my mother, and he said, look, my mother's inside now, and she's about to go as well. And didn't she pass away the next day? I know. COVID hit Ballyno bad. And, my God, even inside there, you have the guy that brought us down to my mother's room. That was about 4:30. He said that he was after changing everything, like his own
safety gear he's after changing it 15 times so far that day.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it must be horrendous, like to have to walk into in there every morning.
Yeah, but you see, when it's inside in a nursing home, it's inside in the nursing home, you know? It's there, like.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know,
I mean, sure, take all of the necessary precautions, but it's in the home already.
Yes, and it's just frightening, you know. And, you know, I do feel very sorry for these people, the frontline workers. You know, they had families as well, like, you know, they're going back home to their families and they don't know whether they have it or not. But I mean, I just wanted to thank people who are thinking of me and just texting the show, and, you know, just to tell people who are facing this like that, the actual process of funeral is not as horrendous as you had imagined.
I appreciate that. You know? Okay, well,
try and take as much positive as you can.
But it's very cruel and it's very unfair that you would be taken, that anybody is taken in this manner, particularly in a nursing home facility. Let me leave you with this lovely text by way of condolence. I'm so sorry to hear that man's mum passed away. I was heartbroken when he spoke to you a few weeks ago. And well done to him for coming back on the show. His mum would be proud of him, no doubt. So some kind words for you. All right, Sean?
Sorry. Okay, listen, thanks very much for having me.
Okay, I know it was difficult for you, but thank you so much for coming back. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Lines open at 1-850-104-106.